Okay, here's a bit that was written by Van Riper in the textbook that we were having a look through last week. And he said, any therapist without half trying can get any stutterer to talk without stuttering. But should he not instead try to teach him how to cope sensibly with the stuttering when it does appear or is expected? Stuttering can be temporarily suppressed or repressed by a host of procedures, ranging from relaxation, shadowing, hypnosis, and operant conditioning to sheer hocus pocus. But unless we modify the learnt behaviours and weaken them, our efforts will largely be in vain. Okay, so as I said, the jump is really what Van Riper would call block modification. And what it involves is teaching us to deal with blocks when they occur in the most adaptive way, in the most useful way, rather than trying to stop them occurring. One of the good things about the jump is that it doesn't require any prior preparation. We can just launch into what we want to say spontaneously without worrying about it. And then when we get stuck, what we do, first of all, is simply abandon the sound that we're trying to say and continue on from the next sound or word. It's as simple as that. But the key thing is to abandon trying to join the sounds up. Now I say the key thing is abandoning trying to join the sounds up, because in fact stammerers rarely have difficulty making single sounds in isolation. There's plenty of research that has been done into stammering that has demonstrated that stammerers can make individual sounds without stammering relatively easily. They rarely get stuck. The problems arise when they try to join the sounds together, or rather when they try to co-articulate. And by co-articulation, joining sounds together, if you think of an analogy, you know when you're a child and you first start to learn to write, you write each letter separately. And then there comes a point where you have to learn to join them up, and you do joined up writing.
I could never do that.
Well, our problem is with joined up speaking. And when we're using the jump, we effectively abandon joined up speaking at the point where we're having difficulty. We just accept that we're having difficulty joining it up, so we stop trying to. So we carry on until we get stuck. We pause for a moment to let go of the sound that we've got stuck on. And we continue on from the sound after the one that we've got stuck on. A key thing here is don't go back. If you got stuck on a sound, don't go back and try and say that sound again, because that's what keeps the stammering going. That's what stops us from being able to move forward. Simply accept. You try to say the sound once, it's not working, so abandon it. Just
you can't say it, just give up trying.
Give up trying, yeah, just completely give up. And go on with the next sound. Okay, so how do we do it? Well, usually the difficulty that stammerers experience is between the onset phoneme and the rest of the word. So here's an example. People often have difficulties with plosives, so words that begin with a sudden burst, like the word Karen. And so what you might find is that somebody who's called Karen might try and say, my name is or they might repeat Karen. And so using the jump, as soon as they experience a difficulty with a k, then they just let go, and the rest of it is Aaron. So k, Aaron. And when you get more experienced using the jump, then it'll sound more like Aaron. well, the sound still wouldn't be joined up, but the listener would be able to join them up in their head. So they would know, provided they themselves are familiar with the word you're trying to say. And this is what this technique depends upon. It depends upon the fact that the listener is able to do the joining up for you inside their head, and so they're still able to get the word that you're trying to say. Now, obviously, the listener's not always going to understand. And a key thing here is if the listener doesn't understand what you're trying to say, then at least carry on to the end of the phrase that you wanted to say. And then you can always go back and you can say the whole thing again. And that's okay. What I don't want you to do is to go back and try and say the same sound over and over again, because then we end up repeating the same sound, which is stammering. But if you just go back to the beginning of your utterance and you say it again, what you can do second time round is that you can use orchestral speech, because you already have formulated the entire thing you want to say. So using orchestral speech is a much better chance that you'll be able to get it out okay second time. As I pointed out last week, though, when you do try again, second time round, try less hard to be accurate. Focus even more on just the forward flow. And by doing that, and by resisting the temptation to try harder, the chances of saying what you want to say are much greater.